Peter?
Hi, everyone. Another episode of Be Heard Women Empowering Women. And our guest today, that is actually her career, is empowering women. Her name is Pamela Toussaint, and she wrote the Audacious Woman. Um, and second edition of that book, Blaze Your Own Path to Prosperity. And she's also the founder and CEO of the Ultimate Image Academy. Hi, Pam. How are you today?
I am fine, Mimi. How are you today? Good
Great.
to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself or your vision.
Okay, sounds good. I'll
Okay.
tell you a little bit about myself, and then, as always, say my life and I open book. Pun intended, because I say a lot about my life in the book. It really is about my life. So, I was born in Jamaica in a rural community, but to a mom and dad, my parents, very limited means. Five of us siblings grew up together, and my mom became widowed at age 10. And
When you were
so,
age 10.
yes, I was age 10. My mom,
Clarify that.
yes, when I was age 10 and I was a little
Okay.
child. So to clarify that, yes. And so, life went on. Many would have considered us poor, but my mom did not use that, was not in her vocabulary at all. We grew up with limited means, but she said we were rich in terms of our connection and her
Mm.
family bond. And so that really struck me as I moved forward in life. Fast forward, I went through high school, and after high school in Jamaica, we emigrated to the US, to Chicago. And that's where I started my education, University of Illinois and DePaul Graduate School, and started my professional career there. Rolled forward a few more years, got married, had a couple of kids, all in Chicago. Then we moved from there to Princeton, followed the job to Princeton. And years later, we ended up in South Florida. And here I am, and I plan to retire right here
And here's
in
where I
West Palm.
met you. We happened to go
That's
to
right. That's how we met each other.
the
So
spiritual community unity of the Palm Beaches, and that's where I met Pamela. So we have a lot of the same philosophies and beliefs. And
absolutely.
this is a question I wanted to ask you. So the meaning of audacious, okay? There can be a negative meaning to that, and there can be a positive. And the negative is like impotent and cheeky, which was used with children and women a lot. Or it can mean courageous and bold. And I found that fascinating that they had those two ways you could go with the word. What do you think about that?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I also pondered that sort of the difference perspectives with that word.
Mhm.
And I said, I just want, I mean, that's kind of an appeal to me, because then it has people thinking, well, where is she coming from? What is this all about?
Yes,
So this is the impetuous, the risk-taking version of that,
right.
not the negative connotation. And I was actually inspired by a book that our former President Obama wrote called The Audacity of Hope.
Right.
And it was a powerful book. And I say, you know what? That is what is inspiring the topic of this book. And I really love it because it not only describes me, who I've turned out to be, but my mom. That's what
Yeah.
she said. She was very much of a risk taker. When the rest of the villagers said, you're going to start a business, we don't do that in this country part of Jamaica. And she did.
Yes.
And not only that, she not only helped us with her limited means, but she helped the rest of the village. So she was
Yes.
known as, of course, they didn't know the big word audacious back then,
Yeah.
but she was known as the woman with guts.
That's it.
So,
That's it. And I like yourself. I think we're close in age. The
mhm,
'60s and '70s. There was a big feminist movement, of course, and women were speaking out about how they've been treated, etc. And I was part
right,
of that movement. And all of a sudden, this past, I don't want to say decade, but at least the past few years that I've noticed,
mhm,
even though women are coming out now and talking about the abuse that they are getting at work, etc., both sexual, emotional, and they're minimized. Um, I am stunned. It is like we went back 50 years. with the laws that are being taken, they're laws and then they're taking them away from women. So
Right?
do you think we can stop this minimizing and abuse of women?
I definitely think so because at my very core, I'm an optimist. And I think, in fact, one of the chapters of my book is all about disrupting the status quo. And I think if we women continue to challenge and disrupt, yes, there we go. And oh, I have a nice, here's a picture, one of my celebratory pictures
Oh, cool.
of see,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's getting a little
And
light off it, but
it's
that's
yeah,
okay.
it'll blur, but that you get the idea.
Yes.
But I get the impression that we should never let anyone stand in our way. And that's hard to so for some people to wrap their arms around because we've been so beaten down over the years. And then, considering myself kind of a double minority, being a woman and being a
Yes.
Black, that is another big challenge. And I've never thought that I would experience the things that I've experienced being a double minority. When I moved to this country, it was already a culture shock coming to Chicago.
Hmm.
And my mom kind of gave us a heads up. No, she didn't kind of, she gave us a heads up. She said, you're going to witness racism. You're going to witness all of these people trying to put you down, but stand your ground and you're all going to be college educated
Right.
because I'm here to support you, but you're also going to work part-time and find, a way to graduate from college.
Exactly.
And then, the sky's the limit. So that was my role model. That was my coach and
Yes.
so forth. When I came here, we were, to tell the truth, Mimi, we were considered a bit cocky because of our confidence.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? It actually helped.
You were cheeky.
Yes, cheeky, cocky, whatever. But I
Oh my
consider it
gosh.
self-confident. Self-confident is the word, proud, audacious. So I use that as sort of my marching order and my mantra over the
Yeah.
years to help people find their path.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest issues that we encountered in the recent years was in the Me Too movement, which I'm sure you're all over that, when all of this thing happened, what was that, 5 years ago when it really came to light?
Well, yeah.
So that's why I republished my book. I have a chapter in there on how, what your rights are and how you actually grapple with these kinds of things. So that's kind of the way it evolved.
Right.
But it has been a culture shock after the other.
The culture shock. I have a very good friend that has the double whammy. Not only is he Black, but he's gay. And we had
Mm-hmm.
lunch about a year ago. And I think, and it was even before, yeah, it was before they got rid of Wade versus Joe. Is that right? Am I saying that right? I don't even know. But the abortion, that thing. And I said to
Right.
him, I said, women, people of color, and gays are in trouble. I see it coming. And sure enough, like
Mm-hmm.
a tornado, all this stuff started happening where they started taking rights that were given to us already and taking
Yeah.
them back, trying to take them back.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
we'll talk more about the book and handling it, but I think of that quote. I can't remember exactly, but it's actually a poem. And it was talking about how, they came for the Christians and we did nothing because we weren't Christians. They came from the Russians and we did nothing because we weren't Russian. And it goes on. And then he says, and then they came for us and there was nobody to help us. I'm
There you go.
paraphrasing strongly, but you get the gist. So in your
Absolutely.
book, to apply that, this is a new age of awareness and the awareness of what is wrong
Mm-hmm.
also and what needs to change. And there are, I believe, dark forces. And you talk about that in your book, I believe, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's hear about that. Those,
Well, the approach I took with the book is that there are going to be many mountains to leap, many hurdles, because it's one thing after the other. Who knew that Roe v. Wade was going to be an issue, a few years later, after the Me Too movement, few years ago, not even a full decade, probably 5 years. And so I should also mention that when I actually worked in the US, I did very well I shouldn't say considering that I was the double minority, I should say I did very well with my career in Chicago as well as in Princeton. But
Hmm.
one thing always came up is that no one ever forgot to mention, my white male executives never forgot to remind me that I was a woman and that I was Black.
Really?
One way or the other, it would
Whether it
sort of
was subtly or just by something.
exact,
Yeah.
I'd be the only one in the room. So of course, I stick out like a sore thumb, right, in the executive suites. And so I use that as a way to say when I started my business, when I worked, let me know, back up. When I worked for a company in Princeton, New Jersey, I was the head of a customer service organization. And again, only person in the room of color, only woman. And I use that to say, you know what, I think I'm getting a message from on high that this is creating a path for me to be a role model and a coach and a help to those coming up behind me. And so I endured a lot more just to say that I was able to have walked the path. And when I moved to Florida, I had another huge awakening in my career that just sealed it for me that this is when I'm going to start my business. And that was actually working for, get this, a woman.
Oh dear. Sometimes they're the worst.
Yeah, because a lot of people, and that's not to say women against women, but a lot of us have trouble. If you're strong and secure and audacious, you can be, I see you're nodding your head,
Yeah.
you can be a little bit of a threat.
Oh yes.
Yes, not only to other men, but to men, but other women.
Yeah.
And from day one, I just said, okay, this is not going to go well. But I'm not a quitter. So I stayed there for quite a bit of time. But one of the things that I encountered is that I'm not a yes person. And this person wanted me to be a yes person in my job. And I led a department that was pretty much in shambles. They were so demoralized and they were not
Hmm.
producing, and their work product was not good. But this woman wanted to pile more on us, and I just stood my ground and let her know that based on my experience, my expertise, and my judgment, which she said that didn't really matter. And that's when I said, okay.
Oh wow. Yeah. I got it. The more what is it called? Passive aggressive. I was on a board, not the board for church, another board. And I
Mm-hmm.
was asked to be part of this group that needed my skills. And as I put those skills out and suggested things or wanted to change certain things, there was a resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said about your department being in shambles, they needed organizational skills. They were not
Yes.
organized. And
Mm-hmm.
then I got the pushback, and one person in particular. And I set a boundary after a while because after about 6 months, I said, this is ridiculous. And I just told them, I said, I'm going to read this letter at the board meeting. And I wrote a letter saying how I felt about how I was being treated and how I was
Right.
not going to, keep doing that. And they needed to treat me with respect
There you go.
because, and they needed me. They needed me. So
Mhm.
they were all women, 10
Oh,
women. Yes.
mm-hmm.
And it only took one or two that like you said, I think they felt threatened.
Yes, yes. It's a real thing.
It is a thing. And as an audacious or bold woman or just someone who is organized and has certain skills, you're not trying to
Mhm.
make people look bad. You're trying to
Not
say,
at
oh,
all.
here's a good idea. And they
Mhm.
take it as, oh, just making me look bad.
That's right, right. It's a criticism of me. In other words, their emotional intelligence is not where it should be. But there's some, and that was the first time I said, I am leaving this job and I'm starting my business. So that was
Exactly.
such an experience. And I just said, you know what? I came home and I told my husband, I said, you know what? This is the moment. This is my tipping point
Hmm.
that I'm getting all the signals from the universe and then from
Yes.
clearly from this woman that
Yes.
there is more for me in life. There I can have more impact if I start my own thing. Because one of the things that I really, really cherished in corporate America was actually grooming younger employees when they come on board. I would take it up on myself to take them to lunch, to show them the ropes, to make them feel empowered. And then I suggested that we might want to include that in our training and our orientation program. Well,
There you
that
go.
that didn't go over so well. Let's just teach them the technical part of the job and forget about all of that
No.
fluffy stuff.
Yeah.
So,
It's
so
amazing to me. It's just, and I realize it's not me, it's them, it's their insecurities or whatever. But we have a group that is supposed to be about helping and serving the community, with love and everything. And
right,
it had been said when I first joined the group, people come in, you have tables set up. Let's try for everybody to sit at a different table. I'm the only one and the founder of the group that does that. And the others all sit at one little table, and
yes,
things like that, they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear about it, but it's the
they
truth.
do
It's
not.
like, what are you doing? And if you say anything, it's like, who the heck is she to tell us where to sit or whatever?
Exactly. You
But
know,
I don't feel totally accepted there, but I'm doing a lot of good work for the community with getting
right.
resources. But
Hmm.
I have a husband with Parkinson's. He's in stage 3. And
Hmm.
if it gets to a point where he needs more of my assistance, I will walk away.
Hmm.
I'll help people one on one. I could do that too.
Of course, we have that in our system. That's,
We
that will
do.
never go away.
Yes.
Never go
So,
away.
so Pam, what kind of
Mhm.
advice would you give young women today?
Well, here's the advice I give them. You have to make sure that you build your skills and know your value. And I think you probably have heard of this whole know your value movement that Forbes has adopted from, what is her name? Oh
Carnegie?
my,
Not
I'm sorry.
Carnegie. Carnegie? Did he
No,
adopt it from
no,
Carnegie? No.
from the Morning Joe's wife. I can't even,
Oh,
Mika Brzezinski.
so it's
Yes.
very new. Okay.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely. So, but it was, know your value. So I told them you need to be rock solid. You can't just say, I'm empowered and I'm going to do these things. You have to have something to stand behind. So I said, get every bit of training that you can. And I tell this to my daughter and I tell them to our granddaughters, get every bit of training that you can. Hold your head up because they're going to be major stumbling blocks in the career path. But if you know your value and you keep going after what you know you're good at, find out what makes you tick, and I help them to carve out a way to build their brand, which is what this book is about. It's
Exactly.
personal branding, personal branding to become an audacious woman. And so since I decided to go out on my own, Mimi, I have done, I want to say over 50 seminars, workshops, many of them free, right here in Palm Beach
Yeah.
County, for young women and some young men,
Mhm.
enlightened young men will join as well,
Yes.
and to help them to build that brand. The first thing is do know what you're passionate about and build
Yes.
your brand around that. And he said,
I,
but
yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
hard. Well, the thing of it is, you and I uh, had a rough road to that path, even though you had your mother's support.
Right.
You had other things that were against you. My first book, called Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, the wolves were my parents.
Oh,
I
wow.
wanted to be an English teacher. I was very smart. I loved reading. And I was told on my pretty much graduation day that I was not going to go to college. And it
Oh.
hit me like a ton of bricks. They
Mhm.
wanted me to work and put money in the house. And
Mm.
it took me, the demons part would be the men, uh, because I wanted an escape. It took me till I was 28 years old with 2 children under 5, receiving no child support, to go to college.
Mm.
Now, that's
Wow.
audacious.
That
That's
is super
audacious.
audacious.
I
I wish
had
I'd met you before I wrote my book. You would have been featured in the book.
maybe your next one, but
Your
I'm
next
just
one.
saying, like, I'm not an English teacher. However, I ended up writing 3 books. So to
Mhm.
me, it's like that was always my supposed to be my path and my journey, but these rocks were in the middle of the path. But people tell
Absolutely.
me, how did you do that? I said, I guess it's grit. I just decided I had enough, people
Hmm.
holding me
Absolutely.
back. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Good
I
for you.
relate to you very much.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, absolutely. It's we just have to kind of walk that
Yeah.
path, and as I say when I do my PowerPoint presentations to groups, is that the path is not going to be smooth. There are going to be bumps and twists and turns and things to kind of make your feet. And the analogy I use is that I walked a marathon, half marathon at age 50 after my mom died. And
Really?
I did it for Stroke Association, and I lost 3 toenails while I was training.
What?
So,
But you
the
didn't
whole
stop.
trip,
You
and
kept
I didn't
going.
stop. I
Yeah.
didn't stop. I went to the podiatrist and he said, "How passionate are you about finishing this?" I said, "I'm very passionate." He said, "Go for it." He said, "After you're finished, come back and we will work on the toenails." And I
Oh my
said,
heavens.
that's what life is about. It's all about losing a couple of toenails along the path and just getting right up and keep on
Oh yeah.
going.
I know. When people find out, because a lot of people don't realize if they haven't read the book, I had 85% of my stomach removed because of an infection about 8 years ago or whatever. And
For
I
that,
had
for
double
a
mast,
while.
yeah, double mastectomy, problems with the implants, so I had them take them out. I broke a shoulder, and one doctor couldn't fix it, and I went got a second opinion, and he did a reverse shoulder replacement.
Oh my
And I
goodness
have two knee
gracious.
replacements, and I have an immune disorder. And they're like, "What the hell?"
You are you are totally an audacious survivor. Oh my, more than a
Survivor, and
survivor, thriver.
I say I don't have any original parts left. They've either been removed completely or replaced. So, and
You
that's the
know,
thing. Um, I joke, you know me from Unity, and I usually have a smile on my face and I joke
of
around.
course.
And my therapist said to me the other day, when I went through something, I was joking about it, and she said, "Now, Marae, my birth name," she said, "Is your joking and comedy and humor, is that a coping mechanism, or is that um, let's say that I'm looking for Pamela, not a defense mechanism?" And
Mm,
I didn't answer right away. I sat there and I thought a second, and I said, "It's a coping mechanism, and it's a good one, and it works for me. It's not a
mhm,
defense, not with me." But,
right.
it's interesting. I think writing, like we both did, I
Hmm.
think that is a fabulous tool to not just find who you are, but to underline who you are and to own who you are.
You know who you are, absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's also therapeutic. Come on, to be absolutely honest about it. I don't think
Yes.
I'll ever stop writing and,
Right.
speaking and training because I think I get more out of it than the folks who I'm.
I agree. So let's talk about personal branding because I'm going through that now. Um,
Mhm.
my book was biographical, and I insisted on using real names, unless it would bring harm to someone. But if it was
Right.
someone that did the harm, and if they did, I used their name. And my husband had said to me, you mentioned some mafia people in there. And I
You
said,
mentioned you mentioned
mafia,
what?
mafia
Oh,
people.
oh dear.
And I said to him, "They're all dead." And my husband said, "Yeah, but their families aren't." So
Oh,
I
okay.
made a point of referencing it back in the book from newspaper articles and everything. So it wasn't just me saying it, it's verified. But the branding part, I used my last name, my maiden name, and
Hmm.
Mimi, which is a nickname. And so I'm branding now, and I'm making sure that that name is on everything, and also branding who I am. Can you
Right,
talk to
exactly.
that? Can you give me some advice on that?
Yeah, I love the idea
Branding.
of using your name in your branding. Absolutely. Yes. In fact, I have kind of an alter ego when it comes to branding because I also have my real name sitting out there waiting for my website to be created. But the reason I chose, just to kind of give you the start of the branding journey, the reason I chose Ultimate Image Coach is one of the things I've always excelled at, stood out, branded as, whatever the right word is. Even starting in high school, my mom taught us again, 4 girls and a boy. So needless to say, she made all of our clothing. And she would always sit us down way before branding and grooming and all of those things were popular, because she didn't even know the word branding.
Right.
She said, you kids will always go out looking impeccable. When you go out and you're with people, you smile, because there's nothing that's going to win people over and make you advance in life more than the way you look and the way you put yourself together and how pleasant you are. And so
Sure.
when I was starting to rebrand myself after quitting that, by the way, six-figure job back 13 years ago, that I just walked away from and started my business, it was not even a second thought that I knew that I was going into the space of image and branding, ultimate image coach, and started to do a ton of free stuff, to kind of get my name out there. So the first thing that I always suggest to people about branding is that you really need to start at the start, which is being passionate about something. If passion is not driving your brand, then you clearly are not going to be successful if you want to use it if you want to capitalize on it as a business. So find out what you're passionate about. And that's when I usually get the glazed over looks where people said, well, my life is so complicated, I don't even know what I'm passionate about. So then you start the probing journey of what moved you, what motivated you, what,
Yeah, what your
what really,
goals? Yeah.
exactly, when you were a kid and all along your life's
Oh,
path. And so we go through that and people come up with, what they're passionate about. I had this one lady, I was speaking at a conference. This professor, friend of mine said, we're having a women's retreat for the church. And we want you like to speak about branding. And I did my little spiel and I would talk through the whole thing. And then I could see this one lady sitting over in the corner and she was really quiet in kind of a introspective way. You could tell that she was really kind of processing this, but she was not comfortable speaking up in a group. And at the end, she caught me and she said, Miss Pamela, do you have a minute? And I said, sure. And she said, I want to talk with you about personal branding, because she said, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for 25 years. I worked in hospitals, doctors' offices, and now nursing homes. And she said, I'm not fulfilled. I'm not passionate. I can't do this anymore, but I need to make a living. And I said, so what are you passionate about? She said, I love doing cakes, but not just making the cakes, the decorating part of it, the artistic part.
yes.
And then she pulls out her little online portfolio and starts showing me some incredible cakes that she makes for people for the different occasions. Blew me away. And I said, well, here's your passion. Let's go. Let's get started. And she says, but I don't know how to start. I need to make money. I said, but when you're starting on your journey, the two are not, mutually exclusive. You can still have your day job, do
Yes.
your nursing,
Mm-hmm.
and then start on your branding journey.
Right.
And she's in my book. She started that a few months later after she got her thoughts together. She started making more cakes. And I said, you can use your cake skills to start selling to groups like my group when I host events.
Yes.
And it's approaching Christmas. And she
Yes.
started doing that. We ordered a couple of her. She made the most beautiful cupcake Christmas tree, the
Oh,
perfectly
yeah.
shaped
Mm-hmm.
Christmas tree. And it
Oh,
was gorgeous. So I say that to say, when she found her path, she became so outgoing, so glamorous. She
right.
still works in a nursing home, but she brings in, her beautifully decorated
Yes.
cakes.
Yes. And she feels some fulfillment now. Uh,
Exactly.
my
Exactly.
oldest daughter went
Mm-hmm.
to college and she wanted to be an art teacher, and things happened. She did get a degree.
Mm-hmm.
She makes cookies for parties
Mm-hmm.
and decorates them in a very artistic way. So
There you
they will
go.
tell her the theme of the party. And she does that. And no, it's not her main job, but she's
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook. She calls herself Cookie Mom, the Cookie Mom,
Cookie Mom.
Cookie Mom. And she did cookies for a fundraiser at church when for Trish and Tim years back. I don't
Uh-huh.
know if you mentioned that, but she had donated the cookies. She mailed them from Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness.
So
Oh
when you were
wow.
talking about the cakes, I was thinking about her and her cookies. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try to like have a nice conclusion to this. And one of the things I believe perseverance is the key. Persevere,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
so many people will say, "Oh, I've always wanted to write a book." Well, why didn't you? Well, this, that, the other thing. I wrote an hour or two every day. 2020 was a big help because I wasn't going anywhere.
Of course, nobody was.
So that's what I did in 2020.
Mhm.
But perseverance is the key. Even going to college at 28 as a single
Yes,
mother, it's perseverance. What do you think about that? Do you agree?
I think that's so critical. That's such an important point. And don't let age be a barrier. Don't let any of these other artificial barriers stand in your way.
Right.
And that's what I tell things. When I see that my mom started a business at, I don't know how old she was, but back then, she was probably in her 40s, didn't have any education. And and then when I started my business, I had so many bumps along the road because I didn't know anything about grants and small business loans. And I
Mm-hmm.
started, to be honest, Mimi, I started the wrong way. I just had this confidence
Yeah.
that if I did it for corporate America, I could actually do it for myself. Well, there's a thing called a business plan that you have to develop, and so forth. So I kind of did things a little bit backwards. And when I
That's
learned
okay.
that, I used that
Yeah.
to train other people. But you have to persevere. The pandemic was another lesson in perseverance, where
Yes.
all of my business before the pandemic was face to face. I trained, go to people's
Mhm.
firms and train. Well, pretty much I didn't want to go there and they didn't want me coming there during the pandemic. So I decided I needed to reinvent. That's another personal branding key thing. Reinvent my brand and became an online academy. And this is the picture you see, and behind me is
Yes.
the picture of my online academy.
Yes.
So we have to persevere, we have to reinvent, we have to do all those creative things to stay
That
afloat.
is, everything we're so like hitting spots that agree with
Yeah.
me, and I can just feel the same things. And in the beginning, my websites and everything were the title of my first book. And
Hmm.
then when I did the podcast, Be Heard Women Empowering Women, I knew I had to rebrand. So I
Yeah.
went to my websites and Instagram and all these places and changed it to Women
Hmm.
Be Heard. And so
Absolutely.
that is important because what my demographic is, they're going to see Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, and they're not necessarily going to get it unless they actually read the book. But Be Heard, Women Empowering Women, that they get. That they know.
Absolutely. That's powerful. That's
Yes,
very powerful.
it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't be
So,
afraid. As I tell people, don't be afraid to reinvent, rethink, shift gears, because the path is not straight. It is very crooked and it goes off
oh
on
my
tangents.
gosh, you're so right. It's so right. I don't know why I do this with my computer, but let me ask you, you do have courses and everything. Where can they find you online?
Okay. Well, ultimateimagecoach.com is my home base. It's my
Okay.
website. It's everywhere that you Google me. It's the Ultimate Image Coach. That's my main website. And on that website, one of the options at the top is Academy. And then you click on the Academy and they see 101 leadership and soft skills courses.
Well, I'll be looking it up. I do have, actually, I have the new book, the second edition, The
Correct.
Audacious Woman, Blaze Your Own Path to Prosperity. So
That's
I
correct.
only buy books that I really want to read. I have lots of speakers with books and I do not buy them. But about yours? And
Oh, thank
next
you.
time I see you, you have to autograph it for me.
I sure will. And we have to continue the conversation
Oh no, with
over
lots of
coffee or
topics.
something. Yes.
Yes, we'll do this again. Thank you so much, Pamela, for coming.
Thank you, Mimi, for this. This is
And
so much fun.
oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Yes.
Yes. So we have to do this again,
We'll do this again, and
formally.
I hope we help a few women uh, get up
So,
that path and get through those obstacles, right?
right,
To
right.
become that
Absolutely.
audacious woman that they are.
Yeah, we help business women succeed. We are, that's the thing about giving back, lifting up another person as we actually go up the
And
mountain.
women
So,
need all the more help. Thanks again for coming.
absolutely. They
This was
absolutely surely
wonderful.
do.
Thank you,
Thank you. This
Pam.
was great. Thank you so much, Mimi. Take care.